Tensions ran high on GB News today after it was announced that the inheritance tax raid on farmers may cost far more money than it raises. GB News stars Eamon Holmes and Isabel Webster looked on in horror as they were warned of the catastrophic impact Labour's inheritance tax raid is likely to cause. Robbie Moore, the Shadow Minister for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, spoke ahead of today's farmer protest at the London Palladium to declare that the inheritance tax raid may cost the Treasury over £1 billion more than it makes. He urged, "There will be catastrophic implications and I would urge the government to change course." Moore listed various national and international associations which are all united against Keir Starmer, before telling the nation, "As Conservatives we had a vote in Parliament urging all Labour MPs to back us in axing the farm tax." "Unfortunately, we are still calling on the government today to change course." He warned that while the government had hoped to raise £500 million from the raid on family farms, the latest figures suggested that they could actually lose £1 billion. On top of that, he added that the new policy could have a hugely negative impact on food security and food support. Despite admitting that the figures were extraordinary if correct, GB News host Isabel then took aim at Robbie as she posed a very direct question. She asked, "Does the Conservative Party recognise that what the Labour Party were trying to do was close a loophole that was being exploited by the super-rich? Do you think that needed closing, or were you happy for that to remain?" Undeterred, the minister replied by reiterating the dire consequences the action could have, not just to farmers, but to all businesses that are generated within family setups. He suggested that, up until the year 2030, growth in terms of gross added value will be less than about £9 billion, leading to job losses, and much more business uncertainty. "I would urge the government to change course," he declared. His words come ahead of today's event, billed an agricultural takeover at London's Palladium Theatre. The farmers are expected to argue that Labour misled the public ahead of the election by promising that their commitment to supporting businesses had been ironclad, only to backtrack and introduce detrimental policies. The powerful event will be a direct challenge to Labour in order to protect the future of farming, and the cause has already had widespread support, including from the likes of Jeremy Clarkson. Meanwhile, on X, formerly known as Twitter, one viewer raged in response. "The land lost by the farmers though will go to Labour cronies who will enrich themselves and the politicians that made it possible." The government doesn't care, the policy makes them personally rich and the taxpayer pays. There's no downside for them.